Hey guys, welcome back. We are reading John 11 today, and I'm going to go ahead and switch it up to the NASB Bible, and I'm using the most recent translation, the one that they published in 2020. From what I've read in the footnotes and the publication notes, they originally published this in 1995. Let me double check and make sure I'm not lying to you. Yeah, 1995. And then they updated it again in 2020 just to include easier readability, more footnotes, so on and so forth. So we're going to be reading from NASB, the New American Standard Bible, and a lot of people call this the scholarly Bible, or the ones that they use in Bible college. And I think that's pretty accurate. I don't really know. I've never been to Bible college, and I don't know anybody who's been to Bible college. But I do know it's on like a 10th or 11th grade reading level. So this may not be for everybody, but I do like this translation because it's a good word for word translation. Sorry, I've got my mic a little too hot. If you understood that phrase, drop a mic emoji down below because I would love to connect with some fellow audiophiles. Anyways, so yeah, we're going to read John chapter 11 today from the New American Standard Bible from 2020. You can get it for free on the Bible app on the device of your choice. PC, desktop, which is basically the same thing. So laptop, desktop, iPad, Android device. It's free to download, free to use. There's nothing wrong with a good paper Bible, but it's nice to have access for reading on the go, or for like what I'm doing, to multiple translations. So let's go ahead and dive into John chapter 11. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. And it was the Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. So the sisters sent word to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. But when Jesus heard this, he said, This sickness is not meant for death, but it is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified by it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he then stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, Let's go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and yet you are going there again? Jesus replied, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks during the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks during the night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him. This he said, and after this he said to them, Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I am going so that I may awaken him from sleep. The disciples then said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will come out of it. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he was speaking about actual sleep. So Jesus then said to them plainly, Lazarus died, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, so that you may believe, but let's go to him. Therefore Thomas, who was called Didymus, said to his fellow disciples, Let's also go, so that we may die with him. So when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 15 stadia away. And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them about their brother. So then Martha, when she heard that Jesus was coming, went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha then said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise from the dead. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even if he dies, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord. I have come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, and he who comes into the world. When she had said this, she left and called Mary, her sister, saying secretly, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when she heard this, she got up quickly and came to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still at the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were with her in the house and were consoling her, when they saw that Mary had gotten up quickly and left, they followed her, thinking she was going to the tomb to weep there. So when Mary came to the place where Jesus was, she saw him and fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus wept. So the Jews were saying, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could this man, who opened the eyes of the man who was blind, not have also kept this man from dying?" So Jesus, again being deeply moved within, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Remove the stone." Martha, the sister of the deceased, said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be a stench, for he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not say to you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they removed the stone. And Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me, but I knew that you always hear me. Nevertheless, because of the people standing around, I said it, so that they may believe that you sent me." And when he said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Out came the man who died, bound hand and foot with wrappings, and his face was wrapped around with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Therefore many of the Jews who came to Mary and saw what he had done believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them the things which Jesus had done. Therefore the chief priests and the Pharisees convened a council meeting, and they were saying, "What are we doing in regard to the fact that this man is performing many signs? If we let him go on like this, all the people will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take over both our place and our nation." But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, nor are you taking into account that this is in your best interest, that one man die for the people, and that the whole nation not perish instead." Now he did not say this on his own, but as he was high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation. And not for the nation only, but in order that he might also gather together into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. So from that day on they planned together to kill him. Therefore Jesus no longer continued to walk publicly among the Jews, but went away from there to the region near the wilderness, into a city called Ephraim. And there he stayed with the disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was near, and many went up to Jerusalem from the country prior to the Passover, in order to purify themselves. So they were looking for Jesus, and saying to one another as they stood in the temple area, "What do you think, that he will not come to the feast at all?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was to report it, so that they might arrest him. And that was John chapter 11 from the NASB. And I just actually saw at the bottom of the translation of the page. They originally published in 1960 and did updates in 71, 77, 1995, and 2020. So this translation's been around since the 60s, which is interesting to me. Again, it's something that I never read before being, my adulthood. I don't know about you guys, but the story of Lazarus is one of my favorites. It's also exclusive to the Gospel of John, so I'm curious if Matthew, Mark, and Luke didn't follow him to the tomb, or if they didn't want to include it because of the conspiracy that it created. I'm not sure why it's not included in the other Gospels, because it's such a profound story. And I'm going to reference The Chosen again. The way that The Chosen portrayed this particular miracle was so, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It was so awe-inspiring. It was so beautiful. If I remember correctly, it was the last episode of season 4, or the second to last episode of season 4. Because they just finished season 5, and the end of that season was him being betrayed. I would say spoiler alert, but if you know anything about the story of Jesus, you know what happens. So it's not really spoilers. I won't go into super detail about how they portray different things, though, because that would be spoilers. And again, it's a really inspiring show for me. It's encouraged me to read my gospel. It's encouraged me to learn more historically about what was going on in the time, contextually, like in the Bible, where it talks about the different prophecies that came before Jesus that talked about him, like in Isaiah and Jeremiah, so on and so forth. It's been very inspiring to me, and that's the point of the show. It's to inspire people to seek Jesus, to seek the word, and to be entertaining, of course, but their ultimate goal is for people to find Jesus. I also really like some of the intricacies that they put into Thomas's storyline in The Chosen to kind of make some of the things he says make sense, and to make him, Thomas is portrayed as the doubting Thomas. They make it make sense. They make it understandable, because the other disciples are never described as doubting or as uncertain or unsure. Peter has his moments. Like, I'm not going to ignore the fact that Peter definitely has some moments. But it's never described that way. Only Thomas is described as doubting. So let me know in the comments below if, number 1, if you've watched The Chosen at all. 2, if you plan on watching The Chosen. And 3, if the story of Lazarus is something equally profound to you. Like, there are other miracles that are described in the other Gospels as well, like the feeding of the 5,000 that's prominent throughout all of them. The Sermon on the Mount is most detailed in Matthew, if I remember correctly. For me, I guess I'm just asking, is the Gospel of John and its uniqueness equally profound to you as it is to me? Because for me, like, it was the last one written. And I see it from this point of view, not, some random guy made up a bunch of random stuff. I see it as he read what his other, like, the fellow disciples had written, the apostles had written, and he's like, they missed this, or they weren't here for that, or I need to include this to make sure that it's heard. Like the meeting of Nicodemus. It's only in the Gospel of John. I think that John was one of the few disciples that was present for that. Maybe because he hadn't gathered the rest of the disciples, or because if it was just a chosen few that was allowed to accompany him to the meeting with Nicodemus. Because Nicodemus was a Pharisee. He was on the Sanhedrin. He was one of the upper echelon hoi polloi, if you will. So it was dangerous for him to meet with him, because if Nicodemus had been unsavory or had decided then and there to arrest him and have him killed or have him imprisoned, it would have completely altered the trajectory of Jesus's ministry, which of course Jesus knew that wasn't going to happen, obviously. But still, it could have been a completely different set of circumstances. So that was chapter 11. We're going to read chapter 12 tomorrow. I think we're close to the halfway point. John's not super long, if I remember correctly. Let me not lie to you. Yeah, John only has 21 chapters, so we are at the halfway point. And like I said in a TikTok video earlier this week, when we dive into Matthew, because I do plan to continue reading beyond the Gospel of John. When we dive into Matthew, I'm going to be reading 3 or 4 chapters a day, which I know sounds kind of daunting, but I'm going to try to split it up to post like 1 or 2 chapters in the morning, 1 or 2 chapters in the evening. That way you've got time to watch 2 different videos. And don't feel bad if you can't keep up exactly. it's designed for a specific pace for a specific reason. But there's also going to be some built-in rest days and some reflection days, and there's going to be some built-in catch-up days, because I know not everybody is going to be able to follow this exactly. Life is going to get in the way. We're going to get busy. We're going to get tired. It's okay for those things to happen. So there's going to be built-in days where we can rest, we can reflect, we can relax, or we can use those days to catch up, however you choose to spend them. But I promise, the crazy pace isn't going to stay crazy for long after we get into Matthew. We will slow back down a little bit. But I want to make sure that we don't lose our momentum this year, and that we get through reading the Bible, and we get through all of the lessons and all of the really important details that are in the Word. So, in the meantime, you know what I'm going to say. Just got to get my mouse. In the meantime, stay blessed, stay bold. I'll see you in the next one.